welcome to the Good Talk Podcast, where we remind you of the joy of life, the love of God, and the possibilities that lie ahead. Pete and Jordan here with episode 75.
The most important letter you'll ever write.
Oh, I love that.
I like it too. I even know what it's about, and I'm intrigued. Not that it's not intriguing content, because I know. I just think that's a cool title.
Yeah, I do too. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
All right.
Cool.
Good talk.
Wow. Tune in next week.
Join us next week for episode 76.
No, anyways, we're going to talk about that. I think my brain was going there, and we're not talking about that yet. So that's why I was pausing. This weekend, we have lots of fun plans. I'm so pumped, y'all. It is actually legitimately fall, obviously, like according to the calendar, but also our weather. Fall. The high today is like 70. I don't know. I'm just loving it. I feel like so in my fall vibes. I've got my candles. I'm wearing my hoodie. I love it. I'm so excited. We have so many like fun little plans. I think seasons just bring things to do, which is what we love so much about it. But we've got this really fun thing in our neighborhood this weekend. It's like 30 different concerts on people's porches. And you just walk around to people's porches, and there's legitimate, like, great music. That's what I love about living in
I know. I don't know if you could pull that event off in many other cities. I think it's 44.
Oh, really? Oh, total, probably over the course. Yeah.
So all these different acts, some solo, some full band on front porches doing these mini concerts, and you just walk around and get to hear all this incredible music.
Yeah. No, it's super fun. And if you're like a host house, you have the band over at your home and you help them set up and you have food. We got to do that next year.
Yeah.
I'm like sold.
It's crazy. So like, I'll give you an example. This was like 2 years ago. If you grew up and you're around my age in the church, you'll never forget the Christian group DC Talk. They were like the bomb, right? Yeah. And I love them. I saw them in concert. Like, I just thought they were amazing, right? And 2 years ago, like half of DC Talk was just on a front porch.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. Nashville's crazy. We don't live in Nashville, we live in Franklin, but it's not far.
Yeah.
So people
I was like, that's DC Talk.
That's pretty cool.
On a front porch.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Anyways, and then we're going to do like the pumpkin patch thing, because you have to. I don't think it's fall unless you do that.
And our house continues to grow with fall decorations.
I mean, I don't think you can ever have too much.
We have a 12-foot skeleton in front of our house.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't think it's too much?
No, it's perfect. It's great. Pepper loves it. She waves at all the skeletons. I know we said that last week about the little ones that we have in our inside, but she loves the one outside. She just walks up to it and just waves as frantically as she can. So I'm all about it. If she likes it, I'll keep going. She's just revving my engine. I'll just keep on decorating.
We have to create a whole line item in our budget for
holiday
decorations.
Holiday decor.
Yes.
You know, I'm game.
Okay, that's good. That's good. You ready to dive into this?
I am, yeah.
Okay, so let me quick backstory. I've been thinking about death a lot lately.
Wow.
I know, and it's not that Jeffrey Dahmer show we've been watching.
Okay, yeah. Don't even get me going on that.
That's on Netflix, y'all. It is the most disturbing thing I have ever seen.
Don't watch it. We got in too far, and now it's like I just need to know how it ends. But it is a very disturbing. Is not even the right word. It's dark. It's dark. So don't watch it. Yeah. But anyway,
I love studying human behavior, so I can't help.
Yeah.
But watch this.
Yeah,
but
it's really disturbing.
But that's not what got me thinking about that. A couple of things have happened. One is, I don't know if we've ever talked about Miss Barbara on this podcast.
I don't think we have.
So we have this farm about an hour outside of Nashville several years ago, and there's a cemetery on the farm.
Not your cemetery.
No,
it was there when you bought it.
Old family cemetery. Rarely is anybody ever there. It's really, really old. But occasionally, it's only happened one other time, somebody actually gets buried there. So Miss Barbara's husband passed away several years ago. She was distraught. I would see her on my farm all the time because she would literally come and visit her husband's grave and just sit there for hours daily. And so I got to know her a little bit. Crazy story about our dog, Marshall. Mm-hmm. So she was so distraught that one day she decided she was going to take her own life. She literally laid down on top of her husband's grave with a bottle of pills, was getting ready to take the pills. And my dog, Marshall, wandered into the cemetery. I didn't know that any of this took place. So one day I'm visiting Miss Barbara while she's in the cemetery, and Marshall walks in. I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that's my dog." She's like, "That's your dog?" I was like, "Yep." She said, "That dog saved my life." I was like, "Tell me more," because if you've ever met Marshall, he is like 100-pound
Great
sloth.
Pyrenees. Yeah, he's huge and just lazy.
Yeah. So it turns out that day she was going to take the pills. Marshall comes out of nowhere, lays down next to her. And she felt like that was like a sign from God that you're loved, you're cared for, don't do this. And so she didn't. But she stayed distraught. And over the years, just got to know her a little bit better. Well, she passed away. And I didn't know it. I don't know her family. I don't even know exactly where she lives. I know the area. And so the reason I knew is because she's buried next to her husband on the farm. So I'm out on the farm and I'm like, what the heck is that? Like,
Yeah,
whenever you look in the
dirt.
cemetery and you see fresh dirt, you're like, uh-oh. And so I go over there and it was with Miss Barbara. So she's laid to rest right next to her husband, which is exactly where she would want to be. But I'm just looking at this fresh grave, and it's a little different out in the country, right? It's like literally just dirt with a little marker. Maybe she'll get a bigger marker one day, but a little temporary marker just down and again, death is not new to me as a former pastor. I spent, gosh, so much time at funerals and such. So that whole thing is not new, but it just kind of caught me off guard. I'm just staring at this dirt like, and we all know this, but it's like it comes down to that. Like the end of your life, they're going to dig a hole and they're going to put you in it. And obviously my personal beliefs are that there's life after death. But as far as your time here on this earth, it's going to end by you being put back down into the ground or however you choose to be remembered. And so it just got me thinking a lot about death. And then a couple days ago, my grandmother passed away. And her and my grandpa, they're both in their early 90s, 94, and been married, I think, 72 years. And they were both going down. In fact, we actually thought my grandpa would probably pass away first, but he didn't. My grandma passed away. And so that's got me thinking a lot, right? Just about life and death and how you're remembered and funerals, this week. And I'm actually looking forward to going to the funeral. I want to hear stories, stories I didn't necessarily even know about my grandma that I look forward to hearing people tell about her life. Amazing life, an amazing woman, just servant's heart to her core. She worked in the preschool. My grandpa was a pastor. She worked in the preschool ministry, I think, for 60 years.
Wow.
That's what she did every Sunday.
Wow. Yeah.
Preschoolers, like into her 80s, she was doing that.
Work.
It's a lot of work. And but that was her love and that was her passion. That's how she served. So we'll be remembering her this week. And so it just got me thinking a lot about this whole idea of life, death, how you're remembered, what you leave behind, all that kind of stuff. And the truth is that in our culture, we spend a lot of time thinking about life after death from the standpoint of, is my family going to be taken care of? It's almost always financial, right? At some point, as you get older, you're probably going to do some kind of trust, some kind of something where you're going to fill out a document saying, here's what I'm leaving behind and here's who I'm leaving it to.
Right.
So we got that concept down. What we don't have down, in my opinion, is the more valuable things that we can leave behind, which is how you think. What are your values? What did you learn about your time here on this earth? We haven't really figured that out. We haven't made that a priority. So we leave this stuff behind, but we don't necessarily leave behind these really important things like what we think, what we learn, our values, our hopes, our advice, all that kind of stuff. And so I picked up a book a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I've been reading this book, right? I got it right here, actually. If you're watching on YouTube, that's the cover. It's called For You When I'm Gone. And it's written by a guy named Steve Letter. I believe he's a rabbi out in California. And it's the 12 essential questions to tell a life story. And I love this book. Like I really, if what we talk about today is interesting to you, you should pick up the book because I think it has some just great ideas in it.
It's practical.
Very practical. And in the book, he thought, I didn't know this, but I took Hebrew in seminary, but it didn't stick real well with me, as you might imagine.
Wow.
I can barely speak English, so foreign languages were definitely
not your
difficult for me.
forte.
But I learned in this book that the word for word in Hebrew is the same word for the word thing in Hebrew. It's the word devar, and it means word or it means thing, right? And to me, I think that's a very deep spiritual point, because what it's essentially saying is that our words have weight. They're concrete, they're material, as anything, right, that we'll ever own or ever leave behind. But we think about leaving things behind. We don't think about leaving words behind. But in essence, I think all the way back, previous cultures have been trying to tell us leaving behind words is really really important.
It's so true. I was thinking about a while ago, even thinking about my grandmother, who is still with us. But I was thinking I would love to interview her and have I want to hear her stories. I want to hear her words. And it's so hard to get around to doing that. And it's like, dang, I want to do that, because I just know we would all just sit around and listen to it, because we want to like remember her memories and the lessons that she learned. But you actually did it.
I did. And that's the other thing that spurred this on. Was a couple years ago, I sat down with my grandparents and I interviewed them for an hour and a half about their story, about how they grew up, about all this stuff. And the very first thing I did after learning that grandma had passed away was go back and listen to that recording.
Yeah.
And I was just so grateful. I actually had not listened to it. Obviously, I was there sitting for it, but I had not went back and listened to the whole thing since the day we had recorded that. And there's very few things more valuable to me than to have that captured.
Totally.
And so, maybe somebody will do that with you, but the chances are it probably won't happen. So why not be proactive and try to create something? And so what he talks about in this book is, in different traditions call it different things. Some people call it an ethical will. Other people call it a legacy letter. But the idea is that you leave behind words for your loved ones so that you can journey with them long after you're gone. Right. And that's beautiful to me, because I can't even talk about it here. I'll start crying. But see, I already am. But the idea one day that my kids will be here without me, whew. And for years, I've been thinking about what I can leave them. Right. So I hope there's some valuable things that'll be passed on. But the most important thing I can leave for them really are words. Again, advice, what I've learned from life, all of that, like my story, how I've dealt with things, has immense value for them.
Yeah.
Not so much now at their teenage years, but down the road, that's going to mean the world to them. And so, as you know, I've had a goal for a while to write a book for the kids, and I'm still probably going to do that. But I like this step first because it's a letter that essentially could become a book if you ever wanted to develop it more. But for just the average person, this is something that anybody can do. And so what I want to do, so he talks about there's 12 questions that if you can answer these 12 questions for your loved ones, you're going to leave behind this legacy letter, this ethical will, whatever you want to call it, right? You'll have that to leave behind. So I'm going to write mine now this year, but I think it's something that you want to update because I'm not done learning, far from it, right? So I'm going to add to it as time goes on, but I think it's important to get it started now.
Okay.
So you want to hear the 12 questions?
Yes.
I think everybody would. These are very interesting to me.
Okay.
By the way, if you want a biblical example, I know that everybody listens to the podcast is Christian, but I thought this was interesting. In the Bible, the first kind of record of any kind of legacy letter, ethical will, Genesis 49, Jacob, as he's dying, gathers to his deathbed all of his sons, and he offers them a blessing. And if you were interested in reading that, it's Genesis 49. I think it's verses 1 through 33 or something like that. But again, this goes way back. But I think for some reason in our culture, we've kind of lost this art. We've lost this tradition.
Well, you just assume and hope that people remember or that someone will tell someone that story. And it's just so not always true.
Yep.
So just creating this, I think would be really cool. And to me, it sounds morbid. And I'm like, well, I'm only, 32 years old. I don't want to write this legacy letter, but it is interesting to write it, start it, and then edit it throughout. Yeah. And I want to send this to people that I want them to do that too. Like my mom, my grandma, my whomever. Because I think it's really cool. And you don't know how long you're going to be here.
I do too. Yeah. I'm going to get to these 12 questions, I swear. But, I did with my dad this year.
I was going to bring that up. I was going to wait.
For Christmas, I got him this thing called Storyworth. Just Google it. I think it's awesome.
It is.
And my dad gets a question emailed to him every week. I select the questions. They give you examples of thousands of questions. I send him a question every week, and he answers that, right? And then at the end of the year, they put all that into a book.
It's genius.
So that if you kind of want even an easier route, that's another route you could take. If there's somebody in your life where you're like, I want to know what their legacy letter
Yeah,
would be.
it's a good Christmas gift.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways.
So here are the 12 questions that he says. If you answer these 12 questions for your loved ones, you're gonna. This is your legacy letter.
Okay.
All right. Number 1 is, what do you regret? And there's a method to the order of these questions. He talks about that. I won't get into that. We don't have time. But there is, what do you regret? And I think just the nature of that question, because I can't answer it for everybody, but I could answer it for myself. My regret is not something I did. My regret are the things I haven't done. And so right off the bat, think about what you're leaving behind for kids, your grandkids, is helping them already begin to shape life up to see that there are some things that sting more than failure, and regret is one of those, right? And most of our regret comes not from things we've done, but from things we haven't done or we haven't tried.
Yeah.
So again, there's a
like that.
method to all this. So what do you regret? Number 2, when was the time that you led with your heart? I love that.
That's
Not
a good
just
question.
You led with your heart. Number 3, what was your biggest failure? Number 4, what makes you happy? I love that one too, because again, when I think about my kids, grandkids, maybe great grandkids one day, I'm gonna be a great great grandpa. Don't you think?
You're gonna be a great grandpa?
No, like a good great grandpa.
Oh. Why wouldn't you just be like a good grandpa?
I'm gonna do that, but then I'm really gonna crush the great grandpa part.
Okay.
But I was thinking about that. Like for me, as I answer that question, I know what's gonna come out of it. I thought there was a lot of different things that were gonna make me happy. And it had nothing to do with things. It had to do with experiences. That thing might have led to an experience, so I enjoyed the use of it or sharing it with somebody, but the thing never brought me happiness.
Yeah.
It was the experience, the shared
people,
experience
yeah.
with others. Number 5, what got you through the greatest challenge? So the greatest challenge of your life, what got you through that?
That's good.
Number 6, what is a good person?
That's like such a simple question.
Yeah. What is
But
a
actually super
good person?
profound.
Number 7, what is love? Number 8, have you ever cut someone out of your life?
Wow. That's an interesting ad for
Yeah.
that top 12.
That's one where I'm going to get all into boundaries and my lack of boundaries throughout my life.
Yeah. You could write a book on
Mm-hmm.
number, what was that number?
8.
Number 8, written by Pete.
Yeah.
All
Number
right.
9, how do you want to be remembered? I love that. Number 10, what is, go ahead.
I like that one because, again, that's the same kind of echoes that first one you read. But how do you want to be remembered? By writing it down, you are stating how you want for people to remember you. So you almost have to shape your life like that. If
That's
you
right.
do that now, you can shape your life to be remembered in such a way.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that in just a second because that is a great point, and I want to land the plane there because again, I think I think this exercise is twofold. I think one, yes, most importantly, you're
for
leaving a
others.
beautiful legacy for others.
But it's for
Number
you.
2, this is going to give you some focus and vision for how you want to live your life. Okay, so how do you want to be remembered? Number 10, what is good advice? Number 11, what will your epitaph say?
Your what?
Like your tombstone.
Oh, I've never heard that word in my whole
Yeah,
life.
that's kind of an old school word, I guess.
Okay.
I never really use it.
Okay.
But what
What would
that's...
your tombstone? Okay.
Yeah. And then number 12 is, what will your final blessing be?
This kind of makes me sad.
No, you shouldn't be sad. And what's cool too is he helps people do this. Like, it's part of what he does. I guess he coaches them through this process. And so he put tons of examples, like on what is your final blessing. I'll read a few because he put, these are real life examples of how people answer that question. I think it's a lady wrote, remember that you are love and you come from love. Live for the living. Sit with full presence and speak from your heart. Sorry, I can't read anymore, y'all. I don't have my reading glasses on. Here's another one. Thank you for giving me my reason to live. Be honest. Be true to your faith. think of me when you read a good novel, see a rainbow, or eat a juicy piece of brisket.
I kind of like telling people to think of you with a certain thing because
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
Like I think of my grandpa every time I see a cardinal. Like it's just funny how
Or a dandelion.
dandelions.
That was
for
a thing,
me.
too,
Yeah,
wasn't
it
it?
was for me. But yeah, it's really cool. I like that a lot.
The whole point of the book was, and this is ultimately what I want to get across to everyone listening to this podcast, is don't wait, right? Don't put your loved ones in a situation where they have to guess what your values are, what your biggest regret was, what you learned in this one and only life you had. Don't leave this up for everybody else to guess or interpret
Yeah.
for you. Like, and believe, I have done hundreds of funerals where when I met with the family, it was clear they knew almost nothing about this person except for where they grew up, what kind of education they had, and where they worked for 50 years of their life. And that's about it. Like, plenty of times I've sat there with family who knew nothing about their dad, their sister, their mom. Like, and so, like, I just think do a little work now to make sure that they have your words and your lessons and your advice with them so that you continue on that journey with them.
Yeah. You know your dad really well. You're very close to your dad. But him filling out these questions, I can't tell you the amount of times you've been on your computer and be like, Jordan, listen to this story.
Yeah.
Or listen to this. Like, I can't believe I didn't even know
I had no
this.
idea. I
didn't
had
know
no
that.
idea he went through this. I had no idea what some of the difficult challenges were that he faced in his
Yeah.
life and how he got through those. Like, it has
'cause
been so eye-opening.
It's not like it's not something that you necessarily think to ask over like a morning brunch, you know? So it's a really, really cool. And it, I think, opened your eyes to his experiences in really unique ways that made you feel less alone. And a lot of things that you went through. So I don't know. I think it's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah. And back to the added benefit, this is where we'll land the plane. Besides having that incredible gift to leave behind to family, friends, is so in my coaching, I do an exercise with my clients. I think it's one of the most powerful exercises that we do together. It's called Living with the End in Mind. And essentially what I have them do is write their eulogy.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of goes back to that. How do you want to be remembered? I think is the question that he asked in those 12 questions that would be
Yep.
similar to this. But what it does when they do this exercise, it's often very emotional for them. What it does is it creates this magnetic like pull power that draws us forward, our priorities, our vision for how we want to actually live our life. Right. And it helps them get some really sharp focus because often the things that they write about in their eulogy for how they want to be remembered or what they want people to say about them are not the things that they're spending the
doing.
vast majority of their time on at all. And so this really helps you with your priorities. And I think this is something that can actually, it's not just about remembering back. This is doing this now kind of helps you begin to think a little bit more about living, as we talk about a lot, living a created life versus a default life.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important. I think this kind of clarity that you get from doing something like this enables us to make better decisions, to get up and get out of our comfortable patterns, create new habits, start moving towards a better future. And so, man, if you could do those two things in one deal, like leave an incredible gift for your family and friends and get clarity about your life now and start living towards that vision
Yeah.
for your future, this could be a game changer for some people.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like it. In my brain, I have to do it from the angle of like, I'm doing this for me to like really clarify my path forward because it makes me sad to think about it as being like almost, remember me when
Yeah.
I'm gone.
Yeah.
So I like that there's those two angles that there are the benefits of. And it's really, I mean, you've seen your clients do this where they work through it and then they legitimately have to say, okay, well, these things are blocking that path and they change it.
That's right.
But if you don't do the exercise, if you don't think through these things, you won't change it because it just seems like what you're doing is good and fine, and it probably is, but it's not going to move the needle as far as how you want to be remembered and the real direction you want your life to go in a way that has meaning. So I just think it's been cool to watch your clients do this, and it's so easy to do it.
Yeah, it is. It is. So again, whether you get the book or not, I gave you the 12 questions, but the book really does give you a lot of examples and kind of gives you the understanding of why that question is so important.
Yeah.
So if you're really serious about it, I just pick up the book.
When I'm Gone. When I Am Gone by Steve Letter.
For You, When I Am Gone.
For You, When I Am Gone by Steve Letter.
Yep.
All right.
It's a great one.
I like it.
So, yeah. So that's kind of
What you've been thinking about.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about. So thanks for allowing me to have my own little therapy session today and talk through some of the loss I've experienced recently. And it just makes me think about, again, coming back to living a very intentional life.
Yeah. I really like it. I like doing that exercise and then like sharing it with somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I could see you and I both saying, we do these weird things where we're like, hey, let's have a goals setting night or let's do this. I can see us sitting down and answering these questions and sharing them. So I think that'd be really cool for you to do that too. And just, I don't know, it's not morbid when could be life changing, like right. if you see it in that way. So I like that exercise. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'll write out all those questions in the description so you don't have to go through and rewrite them all.
Oh, that's sweet of
you. That was really good. Thank you. I feel a little sad, but I'm just going to go outside and look at my pumpkins and I'll be happy again. I will be happy again. No, that was really good. So, as always, y'all, please feel free to share this, especially if you know somebody who you want to maybe do this exercise with. Maybe it's your family, your spouse, whomever. I think that would be really kind of cool. And then follow, subscribe, all the things. We really appreciate you guys listening. You guys are our favorite people ever. Please engage with us on social media. We absolutely love that. We kind of have our little community there, and it kind of gives us faces and people to the ears that are listening that we can't see. So follow us on Instagram there, and yeah.
And that was another good talk.
Sad talk.